We continue to wait for clarity on what exactly happens next in Gaza. But one thing we do know is that when any big moves happen, the International Red Cross will be involved in some capacity. The Red Cross is a neutral entity that focuses on protecting civilian life, facilitating medical care, providing essential supplies, and working to secure the release of hostages. You're looking at some video from November of 2023. One of the first times we saw, it was the first time we saw a mass hostage release during this war. These are their vehicles that transport the hostages from Gaza to a safety point. I believe in this specific instance on screen, they were being brought to Egypt to safety there. We do have standing by Dominique Maria Bonessi. She is a spokesperson with the International Red Cross. She joins me here. A lot to discuss. As of the time that we're speaking, which is about 8:30 p.m. on Thursday, a ceasefire has not been called, but a proposal is on the table. If a deal, and again, that's an if right now, if a deal comes through, where does the Red Cross's involvement begin?
Right. So, I mean, we welcome a ceasefire, we welcome an agreement, but what we need from the parties first is the agreement. The ICRC can act in our capacity to provide release of, provide for the transfer of hostages from Hamas to the families in Israel, and we can provide the resources that those on the ground in Gaza also need to make sure that they as well are taken care of. But we can't do that right now without our security guarantees, and that's really right now is our issue, is that we've had to temporarily suspend our activities in Gaza City and relocate to southern part of Gaza, to Deir Bella and to Rafah, our Red Cross field hospital there, in order to continue some of our work with the hope of returning on day trips to Gaza City as need be. But right now, in order for us to be able to do that hostage transfer, hostage releases, we really need that agreement from both sides, from Hamas and from the Israeli authorities.
How much are you able to tell us about how you guys get alerted about where to meet hostages? How is it coordinated with the IDF and with Hamas?
So that information, I mean, when parties to the conflict come to an agreement, either in Qatar or in the Israel and the occupied territories, we are then told, we're called up within a couple of hours sometimes or days saying, it is now time, we are going to do the operation here. We're basically told where, when, and what time, and we're told to be ready. A lot of times that happens within, again, as I said, a couple of hours or a couple of days, and we have to be ready at all times in order to provide that support and provide that hostage transfer.
You know, the physical well-being of the remaining living hostages has always sadly been a question mark. To your knowledge, are there cases where terrorists have allowed the Red Cross to visit hostages in order to check on them while they've been in captivity?
Unfortunately, many times in hostage situations, the Red Cross has not been allowed in to visit, and that's partially due to the political tension, the political sensitivities around visiting hostages. From the very beginning, we've asked for hostages to be released. That is the requirement under the law. Hostage taking, we've told Hamas again and again that it is a violation of international humanitarian law. If they can't do that, they need to provide medical attention, they need to provide food, water, and they also need to be able to provide communication with their families, whether that be in the form of a letter or calling on a cell phone. And so those conditions have not been met, and we as the ICRC have not been allowed in to ensure the medical support to those hostages, because we don't have the ability we don't have guns blazing. We can't just go in and tell Hamas, let us do this. They have to let us do this.
Let's talk about Palestinian civilians. It's a major piece of this story. We've been watching Gaza City closely in recent weeks. As you allude to, the IDF is moving in to work on one of the last largely untouched areas in the enclave. Large amounts of Palestinians are being displaced as a result. Some people have been displaced, as you know, multiple times throughout the course of the war. Gazan civilians have faced challenges from just about every angle imaginable over the past nearly 2 years. We've talked about the work you guys do with hostages. Please give the viewers at home some insight on the extensive work you guys do to help the Palestinian people.
Right. So currently, we have a Red Cross field hospital in Rafah where we support around 450 people a day. That's people having babies, people being injured, seeking food at food distribution sites at times. We have people who have accidents, accidents happen in conflict zones all the time, and they need the medical attention from our specialists there. And with so few hospitals available in Gaza right now, people come to us because they know that we can provide them those security guarantees. And so that's really the reason why we've had to suspend our operations in in Gaza City, because we do not have those security guarantees and we don't have the ability to have that impact. We hope to be able to continue supporting our baking facilities where we provide fuel and things so that people can bake bread and have some sort of food. We also hope to continue supporting some of the medical facilities that are still operating with medical supplies and medical equipment. And then finally, we're also providing water tanks and trucking in and out of sewage and latrines to certain areas that desperately need it, so they don't start sharing communicable diseases. I mean, that's a really big concern now, especially with the mass number of people, millions of people in tented, internally displaced people's camps, unable to go anywhere else.
So before we go, one piece that I've always kind of been curious about with a neutral party like the Red Cross is, do you guys come under pressure from either side to sidestep your mission of neutrality?
Yeah, all the time. We are constantly, being asked to take a side. And the thing about taking a side is that, while I, as a human being, as a person, can, in my brain, take a side, we also have to think about the larger humanitarian picture here and the people that are on both sides of this conflict that need our help. And then really neutrality, our neutrality is used as a tool in order to get parties to trust us. So in order to get Hamas to trust us to bring the hostages from where they are to the Israeli authorities, they need to trust us to be able to do that. Our neutrality is at work there. Same thing with the Israelis. They're the ones that trusted us to be one of the last organizations left in Gaza City. And so us not being able to be there right now has really been a terrible sign for those in Gaza and those still in Gaza City. It's worrisome. They have been, again, as you said previously, they've been moved several times. They don't know where to go. So really we need to, on both sides, we really need to be able to provide our neutrality, use our neutrality in order to provide assistance. And that's really what it's used for.
Okay. Dominique Maria Bonessi is a spokesperson with the International Red Cross. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Austin.
And we appreciate Dominique giving us that conversation earlier today. Back out live now. We are continuing to follow this live camera feed, this camera planted in southern Israel overlooking a portion of the Gaza skyline. I've seen a number of blasts on this camera in the past half hour. We also have this live vantage point of the flotilla. We've been watching this for the past 48 hours. Hundreds of Israeli police officers were deployed today to the southern port of Ashdod to process about 450 international activists detained by Israeli naval forces hours earlier in the Mediterranean Sea. The activists, including European lawmakers, were taking part of a flotilla that you're seeing on your screen right now. They're attempting to break Israel's blockade of Gaza when their vessels, as we saw last night, have been intercepted. A number of them have been intercepted. In fact, we saw one interception live on television. We'll be keeping an eye on these vantage points as well throughout the evening in case you see the IDF intercept some of these vessels.